Kia ora and welcome to this interview from the Religious Diversity Center. And I'm pleased to have Dr. Paul Blaschke with me, and he is a member of the RDC Climate Action Group. Paul, would you mind telling us a little bit about the Climate Action Group? What is this group and who are the members?
Kia ora, Beate. Sure. The Climate Action Group carries out one of the programs of the Religious Diversity Center, and that is environmental action, and in particular action towards the climate crisis. We've been going for a couple of years, and we have organised some quite successful activities, and what we're going to talk about these webinars is a continuation of that. So we have a wider working group that is representative of many of the faiths in the Religious Diversity Centre. For most of our programs at the moment, we just have a small working group of 4. I suppose you'd call it a core group, and that's Jocelyn Armstrong, who is the executive director of the RDC and one of the co-chairs, myself, Mary Eastham from Palmerston North, and Richard Milne from Christchurch.
Oh, that's wonderful. And so you have been setting up now a series of 4 webinars, this core group. And these webinars are all under the umbrella of environment and climate change. Can you tell us a little bit more about these 4 sessions?
Yes, it's specifically looking at the climate crisis. And within the climate crisis, there is so much to talk about, and there's also so much to be discouraged about and feel really sometimes quite desperate about, because there's no doubt that climate change is with us. We've seen this here in Aotearoa just this year, and it's got devastating impacts on everybody in the world. We've seen the impacts here in Aotearoa, and they are even worse in many other parts of the world, particularly poorer parts of the world and our Pacific neighbours. So we wanted to focus honestly on the impacts of climate change, but also to combat, if you like, that feeling of hopelessness. And there is some great work going on around the world that's trying to instill more of a spirit of hope, that yes, us humans can do something to face these terrible challenges. So the series is called E Tu Te Mana o Te Ao, or Building a Climate of Hope. And we think this ties in very well with the mission, if you like, of the Religious Diversity Centre as a whole and of our Climate Action Group. So we are appealing to people of all faiths, but also to people of no faiths. Our work is very much sort of values-based, people who have values which may or may not be founded on religious beliefs, but on some of the ethical frameworks that lie behind all religious beliefs.
So you are a small team of people of different religions, and you have this love for the mitigating climate change, for working as a climate action group, and you've set up these 4 sessions that are all about hope. Is this correct?
That's right. I'll just say, I mean, we have this passion about climate change, but really, I mean, we have this passion for our world, including humanity. And there is a lovely phrase that I think Christians use very widely, but other religions have the same concept, that of creation care, looking after this wonderful world and its inhabitants, and safeguarding it from some of the effects of human folly, if you like, intended and unintended. So yeah, that is the overriding aim behind all our work. So in terms of these webinars, we've got some quite specific aims, and I'll just tell you what they are. So basically, we want to raise awareness about the impacts of climate change in our region, and these are the impacts on people and societies, as well as the impacts of on the environment. And we want to bring this information and this awareness to a large and diverse audience, starting with faith-based people, because that's our immediate audience, but reaching out as widely as we can within society. Secondly, to raise awareness about the types of actions that people of faith and people who have a sense of values can undertake both themselves and in groups to collectively address those climate actions. And then finally, we want to build a perspective on these climate actions and potential responses that spans across all generations, because one of the major themes that's come through in many of our leaders is the incredible power and strength of young people who have done nothing to cause these impacts. And it's unfair to expect the young people to have to do all the heavy lifting to address these impacts and put the world right. And yet, perhaps those of us who are older can provide support to these young people and also allow them to use their creativity, their nous and all their skills to do what they want to do.
I've seen that from the keynote speakers and presenters, it's like across the generations. That's beautiful. You have young people, and you have Rabbi Dean Shapiro, and you have Helen Clark. So that's a wide range.
That's right, and it's quite deliberate. We wanted to have that range of age. We want to have the range of faiths, but also some of our speakers are quite secular, and to have different perspectives and concentrating on different parts of the world and our region in particular.
Yeah. So the first session you said is it's on the 14th of June, right?
Yeah, well, that sets the scene. I think it'll set the scene in a very inspiring way. And the keynote speaker is a very well-known, internationally well-known anthropologist turned environmental activist, and that's Jane Goodall, who did pioneering work on primates like chimpanzees and gorillas in Africa when she was a young woman. And she's worked tirelessly now for many decades, became an environmental activist when she realized that the habitats of all these primates, which are so closely related to ourselves, was disappearing. Then she became aware of the climate crisis and worked on that. And most recently, she's written a marvelous book called The Book of Hope, a survival guide for an endangered planet. And really, I think she will talk mainly about her book, which sets a very inspiring and hopeful framework for the webinars.
And that's great. And so can you give us the dates so that we can save the dates?
They are 4 consecutive Wednesdays, starting on the Wednesday, the 14th of June, and then we have the 21st of June, the 28th of June, and finally the 5th of July. Each of them starts at 7:30 p.m. and goes on for just 1 hour.
And how can people register or participate? Is there a fee involved?
No, attendance will be free. We will be inviting people to make a koha online, and that's to cover the costs of the webinars and also to make a donation to the fantastic organizations that each of our speakers are involved on. So far, we've just started the publicity, and at the moment we have an advertisement and a poster on the Religious Diversity Centre website, and that will spread much wider over the next 2 or 3 weeks.
So it's watch the space and keep and save the dates, right?
That's right. Save the dates, watch the space for the registration and further information.
Is there anything else you'd like to add to what you can say at this stage? I understand that there are still a few details that will be discussed, and we'll do another interview closer to the date. But is there anything else that we can say now for people who are listening to this interview?
Well, I'll just give you a quick taster of the other three webinars. So I've talked about the first one with Jane Goodall. The second one turns fairly and squarely here to Aotearoa. And this one's actually been organised in association with the Religious Diversity Centre by Rabbi Dean Shapiro from the Beth Shalom, the progressive Jewish congregation in Auckland. And that's talking about the reality of climate change here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. And Rabbi Dean has got a group of 3 very well-informed experts on different aspects of climate impacts in different fields. And I should mention that most of the webinars are being facilitated by Rod Oram, a great friend of the RDC, who's a very respected journalist and commentator and writer, very, very familiar with these issues. And that will generate some great discussions. There are also commentators involved on the keynote speakers. This one that I've just mentioned with Rabbi Dean, that's going to be facilitated by Rabbi Dean. The next week, we've talked a little bit about the cross generations, and the keynote speakers are young people from a fantastic organization called Pacific Climate Warriors, who are fighting for climate justice in the Pacific, which are either their home countries or they are living here in Aotearoa, but with their cultural roots in the Pacific. And they have done so much valuable work. And they also bring us a great vision of hope. Many people will know how vulnerable some of these countries are to rising sea levels and other climate change effects. But I love their slogan, or one of their slogans, "We are not drowning, we are fighting." So that really encapsulates the Pacific Climate Warriors, and Rod will have a fantastic discussion with a couple of them and with our commentators, and ending with a truly international perspective from the Right Honourable Helen Clark, who many people will know as a former Prime Minister, a former top leader in the United Nations, very much involved with the development of the Sustainable Development Goals for the whole world. And there is so much connection between those development issues and climate action. So Helen Clark will bring a truly international perspective to finish the series off.
Wonderful. Sounds really exciting. So again, we'll save the dates and watch the space, and we'll put up the link to the website and the poster so people can spread it widely. So the more people we have, the more interesting it gets. Will there also be a chance to ask questions during the sessions?
Yes, there will, but not in person. This will work like many of these large webinars work. So people will be able to use the chat function or the ask questions function to raise whatever issues they want, ask whatever issues they want. Ngā mihi.